Hello, everyone, and welcome back to session 13 of Roll 2 DMs. Uh, we're back now with this session. This once again a free form kind of session, but also for anyone watching and listening. If y'all have any, there aren't any stupid questions here. If you want to ask us anything, feel free to drop a question. But today we're probably going to be talking about campaign types of campaigns. I remember that was one of the things that could be interesting to discuss.
Yeah. Types of campaigns like West Marches.
Yeah.
West Marches is dope.
West Marches is, from what I've heard, it's a pretty cool like style of play. You might have a bit more experience than me in regards to West Marches. How about you can give us a quick like rundown on what's the vibe?
So West Marches is like if you have a wide group of people that you want to play with, but they all kind of either don't know how to form a party or they don't know exactly what they want to do in a campaign, and they just want to have some one shots, some adventures. Maybe their characters are loosely tied together. Maybe not. You get to like run through with different people, different parties, and do different sort of adventures that you set up, and they say, "Hey, I want to do this." You provide them a list of things, and people will say, "I want to do this," and then they get a group of people together, and it's awesome that the players kind of drive getting other players together, which is super nice on the DM and kind of lets the DM focus on making the content instead of trying to schedule, because scheduling is the BBEG of.
It is. It is scheduling, time. These are all really big issues that especially when you get to the point in your life when you have a life and you have stuff that you want to do. Have just like a job. Like a job in school.
Yeah.
That takes a bunch of time out of your like general. Like whole thing. And having West Marches, I feel, helps with like it's a lot more like as you said, like it's a lot more freeform and flexible,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's also I kind of enjoy the slightly more collaborative way of like playing, because especially for some DMs there is that issue of not knowing really what the players want to do, and having like just be like, oh, we want to do this, and like, oh, I know for a fact that this content is something they're gonna enjoy because they just said so, right?
Yeah, it allows you to like experiment with smaller plot points and small adventures. You can focus on just making the content. It's awesome, and I think what's really great is that the players that want to play the most get to play the most.
Yeah.
And the players that don't want to play as much or want to do
Schedule not
certain
permitting,
things
yeah.
aren't playing, and they don't have to worry about like falling behind or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because you could always, like, there's plenty of ways to run West Marches. Like you could say, West Marches comes from like old war games.
There's kind of this like a war campaign that just is ongoing
Yeah.
to an extent, right?
Yeah. So what you can do is you can say this adventure takes place at this level. The reward for this is whatever. Or you could have like some sort of progression, but then you have to take into account the players that aren't playing as much. Are you going to penalize them for not playing? The whole sort of thing is that you're not penalizing them for not playing, and I think that maybe reward them with items that kind of scale by the level. I don't know.
That could be a possible thing. What I was thinking of, and I feel like I've seen or heard this somewhere, probably in Matthew Colville's, one of Matthew Colville's videos, but mainly in the way that West March is, there's a key, I guess, cool element here, and I guess also it started out in a time of D&D where you could have a party that has differently leveled characters, and not everyone was on the same level, right? Like you'd have times where like due to whatever effect may have occurred, like a dragon blows a breath weapon and you lose levels somehow, or like that type of stuff. Like reductions, or maybe your character dies and you start with a lower level one just because that's how the rules went at your table and such. So I guess nowadays it's definitely the case that almost always your campaigns are going to have people who are going to be all the PCs are going to have the same level,
Yeah.
right? There's no like individual XP gain or individual progression system compared to like how it was in the past, which is I guess a thing that could I guess you know could be to the benefit or maybe detriment of a West Marches style of game.
I think that's up to player
Right.
expectations
Right.
being set.
Yeah,
I think if the players want to be at the same level as everyone else,
Yeah,
they'll
no,
be like,
definitely.
"Hey, that'll be fun. I'll have a similar impact on a battle or like a social interaction as other people at the table."
yeah.
Um, but you have to figure out, also if
No,
they're like,
definitely,
"Yeah,
yeah.
I'm fine with being at a disadvantage. I'm fine with fighting and
Maybe they just-
proving myself
yeah.
in battle or whatever." That I can
Yeah.
do these things.
No, definitely, and maybe it could be just the case that the players don't want to, be like in the forefront and don't want to put as much time as other players. So they're cool with having a lower level because that means they're just in the background. They kind of serve as an NPC to an extent. If you think about it in the way of oh yeah, I just want to play this like low level wizards who can just do a couple a couple of healing spells perhaps, and maybe help solve this one puzzle and stuff. But I know I can't be super into the game 100% of the time, and this could be a compromise you could reach actually, like as a way of just like adjusting because once again player expectations and what the players want to do is the key word here. So yeah, no, definitely. I feel like we can probably like kind of hop in or go into the more traditional style of play, which is, or not traditional as much as I guess we can probably touch on how different Adventure League tables and games can be versus how like a home game can be, because there are some differences, right?
Yeah, Adventure League, all of the things that you've been rewarded, all of your builds, everything is like official.
Yeah.
If you have a character that somehow got this item, you have to like kind of have it documented of like
Yeah,
the
which is-
table
which is
that you were
interesting,
at
Yeah.
in the session, and like, yeah, this is where it's from. I didn't randomly get this homebrew item.
Yeah, like the
Um,
DM asks, "What's your what's your Vorpal Sword's serial number, please?"
Yeah. It's pretty Adventures League is very, very strictly
Yeah.
rules as written.
And it
Um,
makes it a bit fair to an extent, though.
Yeah,
you can
the
yeah.
only thing I've ever seen changed at like actual Adventure League tables was how initiative was done.
Oh, really?
But like it was exactly the
Well,
same, except
okay.
it was like rolled with different dice. I've had
Depending
people
On, okay, interesting.
I've had people do D6s on initiative, which was awesome. I liked that so much more.
Well, I guess it's kind of makes the line like
It makes everything very close,
yeah, it makes it like clusters characters more to
Yeah.
an extent.
which is cool, I guess. If you're
yeah.
interested in having like teamed attacks, I feel like those moments are very cool.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Shout out to Kobe. AL is whack, but Raw is whack also. Yeah.
AL whack, but raw whack, dude.
Everything's whack.
Everything is whack.
It's
Fifth
all about the
edition,
eye of the whack holder.
everything is OP.
Yeah.
Actually, just casters.
I guess like just having casters and
I'm
like,
not gonna get on the casters train. It's too
Yeah,
much of
no.
a joke.
today like we kind
Thank
of
God. Thank
yeah.
God you
I
turned
just
off that.
realized
It
that,
was really throwing me off.
yeah, no, same. I was, my mind was, for people watching back home, we have the stream pulled up on a big screen, and it was at a very low volume, but the mic didn't pick it up, but we were hearing it, and it was throwing me off to a large amount. But yeah, back to it though. 10-foot pole OP. Yeah, no. See, that's the thing is that when you get into AL and you get into raw and like running modules and stuff, you do get to the point where like some strategies in raw are a meta, right? Like you just have some
Yeah,
things
if you're
that are
dungeon
definitely
diving.
If you know that the module that DM is picking is Dungeon of the Mage Mage and you have Dungeon Delver and you bought a 10-foot pole, you're gonna have like a significantly larger amount of survivability than a party that does not have that. because you know you are at an inherent advantage because you know the rules. That's the thing, and then that's the point where sometimes rules as written opens up the book to more metagaming options for players if they want to metagame.
Yeah.
And obviously, metagaming and you know all that stuff is a discussion between players and DMs. But it's the general consensus is people hate it.
The metagaming in Adventure League is way less like looked at as like, oh, what is wrong with you? You're ruining everything, because it's a module.
Yeah.
And there's not chances are these players have played the module before.
Oh, yeah,
If
that's
you
the
were
other thing, yeah.
outright ruining story beats for other players, that's not okay.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. That's where you have a discussion with the player.
Yeah.
You're like, why the fuck are you doing
It's
this?
where you slap them around.
Characters that know what they're getting into when they're playing Mage. Yeah, true. That is a
Yeah.
point, especially when you're going into something like Dungeon of the Mad Mage. You're going into the dungeon voluntarily, unless you have a weird backstory point where someone threw you in for some reason.
Yeah, then you're
Uh,
getting out of the dungeon.
yeah.
And there's all this stuff. Which would be interesting if you were as
Yeah.
Zvifnirblin. You know, the
Yes,
the
yes.
rock gnomes. Or not the rock gnomes, they're like
No,
the
The weird
abyss
yeah.
gnomes.
They're like deep.
They're like the deep rock galactic gnomes.
Shout out to Deep Rock, sponsored
Rock.
possibly. No, definitely. Like with Adventures League and with all that stuff, yeah, no, like as Kobe said, yeah, exactly. Like metagaming and that stuff isn't gonna be like it's not as. Well, that's the thing is when you play in a home game, you have the option of homebrewing and throwing twists and plots, even when there is the possibility of acknowledged, you know, metagaming is that they can't metagame something that isn't, you know, real.
All of this stuff in Adventures League is published.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
and it's
everyone can buy
published
the
so
book.
People
Yeah.
who can, and like even like the Adventure League adventures
Yeah.
that aren't like in published book form, but it is.
You can find them
free
online.
Yeah, it's freely available online, so people can learn how to run these modules and show
Yeah.
up to Adventures League without there being some sort of barrier to entry.
Where you have to like spend an hour before like you get there, and then you know you have to check, you have to get a key, open up the bookcase, and then pull out the hollowed tomes and learn how to run the game. That would be very annoying.
Yeah.
No, definitely. And that's a thing where like there's a point in that way of pre-written modules. I guess we can also talk about just pre-written modules versus homebrew modules, and touch
Homebrew
on something that's
module.
homebrew adventures, I guess, to an extent, which was a topic that that me and Josue talked about. But I am interested in your opinion in this regard, just because it's it is a thing that people have different opinions on it, and it can swing both ways, really.
What, on homebrew versus module?
Yeah.
Like, what about them?
No, like how, in terms of how do you feel about them? I guess we can start with that if you have any.
I like
real
homebrew.
opinion.
Homebrew is rad.
Yeah, exactly. Cool.
I think that I like adventures, right?
Yeah.
I like chunks of content that happen in 1 to 3 sessions, right?
Okay.
I like running my sessions as episodic as I can.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And it seems that kind of modern modules that have been published, there's big objectives.
Yeah, and there's like big streams of like a quest line that just goes for a while until we hit the next checkpoint.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like kind of overworld movement to pad time.
Yeah.
Avernus had very strange overworld movement.
Getting to
in
the place,
Avernus, because like time or not time, just like space doesn't like work
Well,
the same way like something that you see like just like
in this horizon turns out to be like a week away. Or
like a week walk or something, and there are tables for rolling that in Avernus, which is cool. And like the overworld movement in Icewind Dale, very
that's
difficult,
brutal.
brutal. Unless you have a ranger.
You're in what effectively is like a North Pole.
Yeah.
And you even with a ranger, if that ranger isn't specifically like took like the favorite terrain and like took like tundra, then it's gonna be tough.
I like a good hex crawl.
Yeah.
No,
especially with Icewind Dale, I feel like Icewind Dale applied that fairly nicely, in my opinion. Just kind of looking over the rules and stuff. in the way that there's several tables of both like endurance stuff and just going through the cold, as well as just like the wild dangers that you can find in such a tundra. uh, and yeah, no, like there's lots of really cool elements that the book provides you with, and I personally use them in my home games.
Big
Honestly,
scope.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that is true. Most modules, except for like some of the ones that are specifically structured to be like like actually modular, and like Candlekeep, yeah, like Dragon Heist, or even if you think about it, like like some of the like source books, they have these mini adventures that kind of start you and then integrate you into the world.
And it is
Like,
up to you,
yeah,
right, to like figure out how to break up those big chunks, those big
definitely, yeah,
like adventure verbs where you're like, okay, you have to kill Strahd or something like that.
yeah,
How are you gonna do it? How are it does give you adventures, right? It gives you like beats, right? Yeah. Um,
no,
exactly
definitely,
what you're saying. Big scope equals long-term adventures.
a year-long campaign,
Year
half a year,
long. Yeah.
year-long,
16 weeks.
yeah, a chunk of the semester.
Yeah, like 16 weeks for like certain acts. I've seen like 8 weeks an act if you're like very like pounding through the content.
Yeah, and that's up to the players and how they want to like progress, right?
And how they want to have like party interactions. Like, do they even want to interact with each other?
Do they want to talk to each other? Do they just hate each other's guts and just go along with the adventure, right?
Or maybe they don't want to role play. Maybe they just want to like
do combat, do puzzles. That's it.
yeah, maybe they just want everything to be like a cutscene until they get to the gameplay.
Yeah,
Which I think running stuff like that's fun.
yeah. And it's
if
up to the players
that's what
to
the
determine.
players want.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah,
If I'm like expecting when I like stop talking, if I'm expecting people to like say something or like there to be some sort of like in character or even out of character like something to say, I'm like a little discouraged
really.
and like
Discouraged
like-
in what regards? In regards of giving them this.
just the awkward silence
Oh,
that's
yes.
not being like no one's doing anything with it.
Oh,
It's like
yeah,
I just
definitely.
dropped a lot of information on you.
Yeah,
Which
and-
the exposition dumps do get tiring.
definitely. They can. They can if especially the players aren't really that interested or into the lore, then it would be fairly like they don't really care,
Yeah.
And that's a thing that can be fine in a game where that's not the big emphasis in the you mentioned like gameplay, but I feel like gameplay in most regards is what the player assigns as gameplay, because some
Yeah.
people can just see gameplay as being going through social encounters and like convincing people to do stuff, versus other times people can get gameplay as in just like fighting and solving puzzles or sneaking around, so. And definitely, like that's very much like up to the players and you to decide, really, like what you really want to.
Legend
What's the
lore.
meat? Oh yeah, Legend lore. I remember talking to you, Kobe, about your opinion on Legend lore, because it is one of those things where it can like circumvent and bypass a decent amount of like it's the exposition button, really. You just be like, I like to cast Legend lore. Okay, time to pull out the Google Doc. Time to read you a page about the world, I guess.
Yeah, or like, oh man, the second you have a character with legend lore,
It's gonna trivialize most, like.
Well, not even that. You just have to be like, oh, I gotta hammer out all of my content if you have a homebrew world.
Yeah.
That's why like legend lore
Yeah.
in homebrew sucks to
It's
deal
like a
with.
sucker punch. It's
It's-
tell
it's
me
like-
about the universe.
You're like, ooh, I didn't
Yeah,
figure
no,
out
definitely,
how
yeah,
to.
yeah.
I didn't write that yet. Damn it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it can be
Oh.
tough. It can throw you off. No, like I'm blessed to not run a campaign at that high level where they can cast legend lore, but if they do, it's gonna be interesting, and it's gonna be mainly me improving the lore at the time and then writing it down in my Google Doc afterwards, which can work out if if that's how you roll. But for a person who wants to like maintain a consistent world in line with a theme and stuff. It can be a bit of a like blindside to be like, we can end the session here.
Yeah.
How about we take a very quick, or like, how about we take like a very quick bathroom break, real quick?
Me turning on voice memos while I'm
Yeah.
improvising lore so I can come back later.
Dude, no, honestly, I should do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I should just record my sessions to go over and like just get because what I do most times when I run a game is I keep like a session log of like each day that what happens in it and stuff. That would help me a bunch actually. But yeah, no, like definitely, and that's like going back to I guess the main part of the whole thing, which is like yeah, sometimes some players aren't really interested in talking, and you can run a game super fast. And other times, the players want to do downtime. They want to talk. They want to do some mini games.
They want to shop.
They want to experience the world. They want to shop. Yeah,
They want to
like
buy couches.
going furniture shopping. Yeah, like you can totally go furniture shopping
I saw
if
that
the
image.
players. Yeah.
I saw that image in
Oh yeah, in the server. Yeah, no, like that's yeah, really funny image, but
the industrial warehouse with a bunch of couches in it.
yeah, but yeah, no, and that's the thing. That's what the players want as gameplay, and that's what makes them have fun. And but that's the thing is that can make the campaign length vary largely, because you get those points where this like I remember in my case for like expecting when the first like arc of like my game is gonna end. I was through this whole semester I was like it's gonna be next week. It was gonna be the week after it, because like I genuinely had no idea when the ending was going to happen until the players finally decided to yes we're going to end it. But that's the thing, that's up to you to structure it that way, because you can totally structure it where they're on a clock and each session takes time for that clock, and when that clock ends repercussions are going to fall on their heads, and that's a totally fine way, and that is a way and method of accelerating the game and making sure that you're running the game on your pace to your benefit, which is a thing to consider. But some people don't like that. It feels it's like railroading at that point.
I don't think it's railroading if you give them stakes.
Well, not giving the stakes as much as issuing like trying to accelerate or maintain a certain timeline for a game through the introduction of certain elements that would force the players to act in a certain way. Which
I
up
don't
to
know.
you.
I don't know if that's railroading. I think
I don't really feel like in a proper
if it
setting.
makes sense.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
But to some people, it could be. To a player who has no idea what's going on in your head, it can feel like it's railroady, because they're like, I can't do my downtime now because the world is gonna end in a day. Like for them,
they're just gonna have to play their part as a player in a Dungeons and Dragons game.
No, definitely.
And
I
I don't know. Play Sims 5 later.
No, well, that's the thing,
Or
is
I don't
that
know.
that's
What's
that.
Sims 3?
No,
Isn't-
Sims 5. I feel like
Is
5
this-
is a good number.
Is Sims 5 the current?
I feel
don't
like
know.
Sims 5 is a good number. But yeah. Anyone in the chat could let us know what the most recent version of Sims, please.
Any chatters know about Sims?
But yeah, no, but the thing is, Matt, though, that's what the players want to have as like gameplay, and you as a DM are cool with that, then you run that, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, like, really, like, that's one of the things that like I kind of enjoy about like collaborative tabletop RPGs and stuff, is that's the whole thing, is that you as a DM and the players, you work together to have fun, and you run the story, they enjoy the story, but you got to be on the same page, right? You can't
Right.
have you can't be like reading off of a biology book when they want to play football, which is which is a weird example, but like that's what popped up in my head at the moment. But yeah, no, like it's definitely a point of like you gotta figure that stuff out, which kind of roots back to the I guess each session we should always just say this. Yeah, talk to your players. DMs talk to your DMs talk to your players talk to your DMs. Make sure that y'all are on the same page on what y'all want to run. But yeah, no.
I get you, Dungeons and Dragons nerds don't like socializing.
Bro,
But
that's
guess what?
toxic.
Dungeons and Dragons is about as
Yeah.
social as it gets.
Yeah, no, like it's 5e D&D. I got some bad news for y'all. You gotta talk to people.
Unless your player expectations
is
are
not
set
to
that you
talk.
don't talk to each other and just roll dice.
Yeah, no, definitely. And could you angle your mic actually a bit to your mouth? Yeah. Thank you.
Hey. Well, I mean, when you talk, it lights up
peaks?
for me sometimes.
Oh damn. Oh crazy. Then I'll just move.
That's why
here.
it's over to the side.
Okay. Yeah. Figuring out audio issues. This place is cursed in the way that sometimes the audio just messes up at some points. But we have enough real estate we can move around to an extent. Yeah.
There we go.
But definitely we can have. Like I mentioned. I guess we can talk about some. We can actually. This does bring up the topic. No, we don't have to talk about that.
I know.
right now.
It's a set piece.
But shout out.
Don't even worry.
Shout out
There
to
you
the
It fills
Heroes
up the
Feast
empty space.
D&D book. It's a really sick book, but it's on the logo though, which means we can't really put it because
Oh, we can't. Wait.
takes from the. Yeah. It takes from
Oh,
the
it's
book.
on the
It's
no.
on the logo.
No.
Next time though. Next time possible. We can get a poster somewhere up here.
should
But
get
next
a-
time, maybe actually a bit of a while from now, given I'm gonna be going back home for a couple of months, which is a big thing. So hopefully, either would be the case that Matt may carry the torch and run it with someone else at the time being, perhaps, or that we just take a hiatus.
Does CUD&D have a YouTube? You guys have a
Yeah, we
YouTube,
have a
right?
YouTube, yeah,
Yeah, that's
We
what I
upload
thought.
the
You
VODs.
upload the VODs
we upload the VODs
Um,
there, yeah.
instead of
We
instead
can
of the
record
streams.
sessions,
Just
perhaps.
make cooking videos
Maybe
from
you never
Heroes
know.
Feast.
Actually, that could be a
That
thing
would
to
be
do.
sick.
Let us know if y'all are interested in
Have a
that.
nice
That could be a
kitchen.
thing to do, yeah. Especially if when I go back home, that's definitely going to be a good kitchen. Yeah, no, definitely. But for the time being, there is a chance. I'll let y'all know if there is a chance. We might be just going on a hiatus for a couple of months, but I'll definitely inform y'all on the in the CUD&D server.
What's that?
That
Is
is
at the bottom?
no, that's Ibrahim. Yeah, with the font is
Yes.
The name is just slightly darker, so it blends in.
Oh
But yeah, we can probably touch a bit on. I feel like your opinion on combat versus socializing has been fairly stated throughout various points. In the last 3 sessions.
I like story.
You like story, right?
I like story a lot. I feel that most of my players over socialize.
Really.
Yes. I remember running the Witcher game.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember I liked all the social interaction. However, when you guys
Spent it.
killed
Yeah.
those bandits
I remember it wasn't a
and
fun time for me
discussed
too, yeah.
how to get their bodies back to get rewards despite members of your party having bounties on their heads.
Yeah. I realizing now after my time in playing D&D and running games and stuff, there's a big point where I
It was
realized
over half the session.
we spent at least 2 hours
It was
talking about decapitating versus dragging the bodies, which is a thing that I feel like honestly you should have just
all
talked
of
to
your
us.
guys' stats were through the roof.
Yeah, no, we definitely could have.
I did 5d6, keep the top 3, which is insane.
Yeah, no, that was we had some pretty good stats and stuff, but that's one of the things.
No
where,
talking players.
Yeah, no, that could be a point, and and obviously, the easy solution to that would just be like, let us know, hey guys, can we just try to focus on running the stuff.
I just wanted
Yeah.
to let you guys go at that point. Like
Yeah.
the sunk cost fallacy. It's
I
like
guess, yeah.
these guys are so deep into this conversation, figuring out how to move this Duragar head.
Yeah, no,
I just want to see where it goes, and it
Looks-
ended up like being crawling through the crawl spaces in the bridges
yeah, going through the underground thing, which is it's
just
pretty
to get
cool.
to the Gimp.
Yeah. Oh yeah, oh my god, yeah, that was
What a guy.
Good times. But and the thing is, that raises a point where you do get those times in session where the players are just just stuck in the mud and just keep on rolling and rolling, and there's no real progression that happens, and there is always a point where you've got to make that assessment of whether is this going to be something that I and the players are enjoying as a thing to do, or do we have more pressing matters to attend to, where that could be the point. And for me personally, where I as a DM I come in and guys, don't worry about this is not going to matter too much, you can just drop this thing, you're going to get your reward somewhere else, don't like just move on. There's always a point to break that kind of like DM screen and just be straight with people, because
Right.
sometimes you just need that. You just need that to like, honest to God, like, please guys, move on. It's not gonna matter.
So here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
I expected
opinion
you
on that? Yeah.
guys to be knocked out by that Durgar, right? It was a hard fight. It was a hard
It
fight.
was a Durgar. We were like pretty low level, and it was a fun fight though. I enjoyed that fight.
Players get lost in the sauce.
exactly,
They have
yeah.
so many
Sometimes-
options, man.
Sometimes you gotta retrieve the players from the sauce, or else they will be forever lost in the sauce, unretrievable, until the end of the session. Then you're like, guys, what the fuck?
These are players unexperienced with sandboxes. People who, they're not used to having all the options presented to them.
I
you
feel
know?
like a bunch of us were fairly experienced in like some regards.
I mean, sandboxes in the sense of like a video game, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Sure, have experience with sandboxes that way, but sandboxes in the experience of tabletop RPGs or
weird.
other RPGs
There's
like
a different regard of like sometimes you're rudderless because you don't know where to go.
that. Yeah.
If you're new to it, definitely. And I feel like that's the point where sometimes you gotta spoon them from the sauce with the ooze. Yeah, no, exactly. The black
Yeah.
pudding, just a bit of Christmas pudding.
A little bit of Christmas pud.
But like that's the thing is that, you definitely have to have that moment where you as a DM gotta value what matters more, maintaining that aura of mystery and being like the super cool DM who like everything runs to plan, or being the guy who's like, guys, please just move on. Sometimes you gotta be honest with them. Sometimes you gotta be clear with them. If if you want to, you can just let them run on their own and like somehow penalize them. But there's always that point where you gotta make that kind of recognize that point in the like that line in the sand, right?
Yeah, you definitely have to set, some boundaries on like.
Like saying no. That's a key thing that you gotta sometimes.
And you also like the most important thing in my experience to like set a boundary on
yeah,
is timers for combat.
that could be.
If you take more than 2 minutes
1,000 death.
total in your turn,
Oh, in your turn, that would be like I would be like,
would
skip.
be so mad at you. What you did until the end of that 2 minutes, that's it. Because I don't want every turn to take like how many players are in your game
6
right
right
now? 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, 12 minutes per turn. That's
12 minutes per
just per round, just for the players, right?
Just for the players, and if you're running 5 enemies,
Yeah.
each of them are going to be sure you as a DM you streamline that stuff, right? But like there's also the point where you can't streamline it.
These players have been looking at their character sheet for how many hours?
Yeah.
So many hours. We have been
That's-
as DMs
that's up
looking
to-
at these
yeah.
monsters
Yeah.
for how many hours? A few?
Depends, yeah.
Maybe
Well,
less?
to the
Maybe
amount
like a
that
couple hours?
It's pretty simple. Sometimes it's pretty easy to run their stuff because just like move, attack.
Yeah.
Next turn.
Yeah.
Move, attack next turn. Move, attack next turn. And that's what happens especially running like like a bunch of or like move, shoot next turn. If you're gonna want to vary it up, and the only like honestly for me for like running a decent chunk of the combat is just rolling the dice. That takes more time than me doing the stuff.
That's why I want war gamers at my table.
Yeah.
Because
Fair. Yeah, that's
they're
fair, yeah.
under time limits when they're playing
Yeah,
games like
definitely.
Warhammer 40K, because they can figure out how to move their unit. They're playing one unit,
Yeah.
instead of like normally their turns would be playing like depending on the size, like up to like I don't know 20 units. I guess
Yeah.
you could move way more if you were in like a big game.
Lots
But-
of stuff. Shout out to the DM duels.
Shout out to the DM duels. Shout out to the DM duels.
Yeah.
When are we doing that again?
Hopefully next semester.
Maybe we can do that during the absence.
During the online.
During the
yeah.
maybe not absence, but when you're back home.
Yeah.
So-
No, I'm still alive, so like I can
I know.
definitely do stuff.
Unlike
Uh,
Josue, Josue
Rest in
died.
peace, Josue. You can still see.
He's
you can
dead.
you can sometimes still see his name on the server list.
I know.
So sad. Shout out to Josue if you're listening, Josue. Give us those views, please.
Shaking and crying.
But yeah, no, like definitely having that point. War gamers, and I was just thinking about this, and this does reach the point where sometimes providing an incentive for being an effective combative player could be beneficial. While you were talking, I was thinking of a point where you can perhaps give inspiration for the most effective player during that combat. You know, put as an incentive. Yeah, I know. I can't believe Jose died. That's so sad. Yeah, but definitely, like you can run. You can run something, in the way that so the you as a DM, when whoever player you notice is being the most effective and like fat and efficient person with their combat, you give them a point of inspiration at the end of that combat, and there can only be one point of inspiration given to the best player. Then there's a competition of who's going to be the fastest.
Bumped the microphone. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Well, then there's going to be competition to who's going to be the fastest, right? And like using inspiration as an incentive, it's a very effective carrot. Who doesn't want to roll better?
Or you can like kind of have a timer for each of the players.
If they take too long, skip.
I want to start having all my players have the time, like a stopwatch in front of them.
Yeah.
Where it's like
use the chess timer. Use the chess timer. Yeah.
Yeah, like a chess timer. It counts up like how many seconds it's taking them, and if they have a sum total of under like 2 minutes or 3 minutes at the end of the combat, I'll give them inspiration.
Yeah.
I'll give them inspiration for that. But if they're just moving kind of fast, I'm not going to give them inspiration.
No.
If they are just thinking and like registering everyone else on the board instead of like drooling on their character sheet until it gets to their turn and they're like, I forgot I was playing Dungeons and Dragons.
See, that's a key thing to recognize here is like, me as a player, I try my best. Now I try my best for sure, because after running a game and realizing how slow like inaction can lead to like slowing down the momentum of a game, I try my best to do my turns as fast as I can humanly possible do, which just I think ahead, and I have those couple of seconds of giving an enemy a free action or reaction could be a way of
I'm gonna start using that one too.
Adding
maybe
adding some wood to the fire, adding some heat.
Just punch him.
DM burns a legendary action. Yeah, no, you could do that, and that would be a way of but you and definitely you as a player, you gotta be a way of you gotta try to, your turn should just be you saying stuff to the DM saying yes, no, and asking you to roll dice, and that's it, right? I'd like to move here. Yes, I'd like to attack this thing. Roll to hits, roll damage dice. Next person.
Yeah. Unless there are circumstances where you need to like check rules or something. It should be like you have, right? Because like a round takes 6 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Or like a turn.
Yeah.
I feel like you should have 6 seconds of being able to communicate what you are doing that turn, and then outside of that time is just actioning on it.
I guess.
Because I mean, obviously that's a little strict.
Yeah, that's a bit too fast for my liking, personally.
I'd be like, that is some serious, like escaping a dungeon thing.
That'd be more for a timer where you on a chase scene or an escape scene.
Yeah.
Right. Or like like running away from something to an extent, and where there is that physical kind of impending doom that if you don't act fast enough, you die, or you take damage, or you can lose your character. That's a cool thing to have, definitely. But there's also a point where sometimes on the battlefield, on when you're playing a game, stuff can change really fast, depending on what other players do. If if you're planning on doing something and then someone else does something else, lots of time there's a variety of situations where that decision chooses you to readjust and realign what you're going to do. For instance, if you're planning on fireballing a bunch of goblins that are to the right of the battlefield, but then a player your monk rushes in and starts punching them, do you shoot your fireball the same time, like the same way that you were going to do beforehand, or do you readjust and reassess? There's that time allowance that you have to give for that, right?
I feel like even if you were playing a wizard, I feel like
Wizards
Brendan is a good example of this. He has very solid spell IQ, right?
Yeah.
He knows what spells
yeah.
to use in different situations.
And how, and that's a key thing. And, that's always a discussion with your players is, hey guys, can you please read through your spells and make sure that you know your tool set. Because there's a key thing that sometimes happens is people can, it's happened to me once or twice where I forget I have a thing. In the rush of the combat, I'm busy doing something, and like it's one of those things where like during like a full session long combat session, you get those points where you slip up, and then there's the thing where you're like, oh, okay, I should, next time I'll be sure to remember to say that, or be like, yeah, I forgot to specify I was reckless attacking, because I almost always reckless attack because I'm a barbarian. Why wouldn't you? Grateful Master reckless attack is like such a nice combo, and like
if players aren't putting the same or like even half the amount of time into like keeping their characters like lined up and knowing what they can do in all these different situations, maybe not all the situations, obviously D&D has a lot of very weird situations, but if they don't know what their character can do, it just kind of feels unfair for everyone else. Right.
That is definitely fair, and that is a thing where that's the point where you skip a player's turn because they're taking too long.
Yeah.
You were like, hey guys, if you're on like, if you take more than a minute or so.
Oh, I really smacked that.
If you take more than a minute or two on your turn, you're gonna get skipped. Because you have to move, you have to keep the momentum going. Because there's a key thing. You as a DM, if you have 5 monsters to run, you're 5 times more engaged just due to the fact that you're active 5 times more than a player, right? Because a player has one piece he's moving. You have 6 pieces dispersed throughout the initiative, which is the key thing to consider for player engagement and stuff. Is that you as a person are for sure you as a DM are going to be for sure engaged because you're running your stuff. You're doing your actions and thinking about combat a lot more than the players are because you have more stuff to move. You have more pieces to move. But as a player, you might just have your familiar and yourself, unless you're running sidekicks or,
That's why I think that more players should get involved in our DM duels.
Yeah,
so
no,
they
definitely.
can figure out how to like move combat,
Learning
move
how to
units.
Like the DM duels was a fairly nice opportunity for players to get on the other side of the board and learn how to exactly, keeping yourself also to the same time constraints is a big thing here also, because whenever you take time, you're losing momentum, and that's time that a player isn't being directly engaged. But the DM duels were super fun. No, definitely, and they were a very nice opportunity for players to be able to practice and see how it looks like on the other side, and may have been an opportunity to get more effective and efficient in running stuff.
Yeah, and have some critical thinking ability. Like, I guarantee that the thing that most DMs and DM duels were planning at the start of their turn
Changed.
was totally different than what they had to do by the end of their opponent's turn.
Definitely.
And that has way more variables that you have to think about than just running your character. So I totally think that there should be I think that it really does teach you how to think fast, like what Kobe said.
Definitely, like thinking fast. And those are skills that definitely, it's always nice. Just trying out DMing too is another thing. I always extract a large amount of joy from the DM duels. Technically, are always going on since you can just challenge anyone in the channel.
There is a channel that you can just challenge people.
Yeah, in the Discord there is just a channel where you can just challenge people or have an open challenge, and people can run this stuff, and you just have to ping if you want to have someone like monitoring the fight and like refereeing, then you can have one of you can just ping one of us. I think there's a pingable role you can do, and you can definitely do that for sure.
I think most people going into the DM duels will be honest if they're winning or losing.
No, definitely, yeah. But if they want a referee just to help them out with rulings.
Yeah,
and like have a DM, if 2 players are playing and they're both relatively inexperienced in DMing and like all the rulings and like refereeing and stuff.
That's right? What I think that we should have more of is inexperienced players that don't necessarily, or new players, people
Yeah.
who don't necessarily know the rules of combat. They kind of like explain to that
Definitely, yeah.
mediator what they want to do.
And for sure, and they can, and the media can help them like streamline and adjust, perhaps.
Yeah.
And definitely, that is a very nice opportunity, and I highly encourage anyone interested to go ahead and try to do that. See
Should make an
see what
announcement.
happens.
about that.
Yeah, no, definitely, that should be. Well, we'll see what happens. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no. The GM duels was a really cool thing, and combat is a thing that is tough to run at points, both from the point of keeping your players engaged in the combat, right?
Yeah.
Keeping your players their full attention, because that's the thing. Most times when players are slow is because they're disengaged due to whatever reason it may be.
Give them
Especially-
different things to pay attention
Yeah.
to.
especially with online play. There's a point where we've all been guilty of this at some point, where you're playing a game online, like, oh, I'll be right back, my parents are calling, or be right back, I gotta clean up something, or I gotta cook some food, or you're restrained by your home life, and it happens to all of us to an extent.
Me
know.
disassociating during my online game.
Sometimes it'd be like that. Sometimes you're just tired and you got a headache and you're like, fuck, I gotta go. And like, but the thing is, with online and with in-person, online play just sucks that way. It's very easy to be pulled away from the game because you're
Yeah.
at your home where you have other stuff to pay attention to. Like you can, and the thing is, obviously, there's a point where you can definitely do two things at the same time. Like you can definitely like work on, like, if you know you can dedicate to that amount of attention, you can play the game as well as check emails and go over writing something. Any thoughts on the recent release, on the recent Candlekeep and Van Richten?
I actually
I-
haven't looked at either of those.
Really?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I've been really busy.
SMH, yeah, fair enough. Candlekeep was pretty cool. To give you a run over very quickly of what both, like, Candlekeep was, I think Candlekeep Mysteries was essentially this kind of pretty sure it was an adventure pack technically, but it was comprised of a bunch of you'd like Van Richten most likely. It's the Dread Realm one. It's all the Dread Realms. They released
Ooh,
it.
good.
It's pretty sick. Yeah.
It's about time.
Yeah.
Do they have
Barovia, they have
what
a
is
bunch of
what
them.
is Vecna's lieutenant's name that
Wouldn't be able to tell you,
is-
but you might have it.
his soul is in a sword?
Maybe.
I don't
Maybe.
know.
There's a
It's,
bunch of
it's
cool
his realm or
monsters.
some shit.
There's a bunch of cool monsters, but Candlekeep is one that's kind of cool because it's structured. All the adventures are structured around a book from the Candlekeep library. I think Nightbot just warned you, Kobe. So sad.
Stop spamming caps.
SMH my head. But
You are not the president here.
Nightbot rules over
Cass.
Cass.
That's
Oh,
it.
the sword of Cass.
Yes.
I feel like I've seen that somewhere.
Koss is Vecna's like original main lieutenant, and he
Cool.
betrayed Vecna
And has
back
a
in
Dread
a
Realm?
like second edition book.
Spoilers, maybe.
I don't know. That was like thousands of
Yeah,
years ago in
yeah.
D&D lore.
And that was like a couple, like 20 or 10 years ago in IRL time.
Yeah, in
Right
IRL
now,
time.
especially second edition, then that's a while ago. That's a 5 minutes ago. Sword of Cost is the biggest bet. Yeah, no, I remember seeing something about Sword of Cost. Yeah, but
Sword of Koss is dope.
yeah. So Candlekeep was a cool way of doing it, where I do enjoy the mini adventures. So yeah, it's adventures that are supposed to be run in like 2 or 3 sessions to like 4 sessions perhaps, that are varied from level 1 to level 18 in terms of party like levels, and mainly
Level 18?
yeah. No, they have it.
I'm
Level 18.
about to pirate that book.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I'm going to go buy it from the local games store.
Shout out to D&D Beyond. Better than Black Razor. That's pretty intense. But what was I gonna say? Yeah. So, and each of these adventures are centered around a book from the Candlekeep library. So there's this kind of nexus kind of location, and then you have these books that you can randomly encounter in the library that then pull you into a whole story. Some of these stories,
That's
yeah,
cool. I
Yeah.
like that.
These books are varied and they have cool designs and handouts for how the books look and how they relate to the thing. I don't really want to get super into some of the. I can talk to you about some of the individual adventures.
Is it kind of like Yawning Portal?
Yeah, but
Okay.
except it's like 18 of them. So it's 18 like mini adventures that you can do, and I know the highest level one has some. Once in a while, they actually put a big boss that's a plant based, which is sick for the 18th level encounter, which is kind of
Plant-based boss.
well, yeah, a plant and also the bunch of like magic and stuff. But yeah, more concise, exactly. And Van Richten's Guide was another thing that could be, also kind of touching on Candlekeep. Keep. It is similar in structure to kind of doing like a West Marches game to an extent. In which the players just be like, we want to play like roll a D18, and whatever number you get, that's the adventure you're running for like this couple sessions. And it can work out like that pretty nice.
Yeah.
And you can just be like the players, oh GM, could you run us this thing real quick? And you can run it for sure. And similarly structured is the Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, which is structured in a way that it does open up a large amount of like opportunity to run one shots and run mini adventures in the way that Van Richten's Guide just talks mainly about all the Dread Realms. That they list a bunch of Dread Realms with stat blocks, adventures, and hooks and stuff in them. They did a nice thing where they didn't stat block any of the Dread Lords themselves.
Good.
Yeah, stat blocking Strahd.
Because guess
Lamar.
what?
Yeah.
You 20 level characters should not be beating these characters.
You can't kill them. Actually, they don't die to an extent.
That's
very,
why
really
like
nice
back
monsters.
in second edition,
Yeah.
they made the mistake of like giving all these like gods and stuff.
Oh yeah, and I remember reading to that.
stat
Yeah,
blocks.
yeah.
Stupid. Because
Yeah, like Mr. Rex, I remember he did a video rating all the gods and their stat blocks from like lower to higher deities, and it's crazy how much content you can make out of that because they statted a lot of stuff. Yeah, if you stat it can be killed. That's a thing. But the stat blocks for the monsters in Van Richten's Guide was really cool also, because the stat blocks, a bunch of them were very horror based and very had a bunch of cool, like there's a beefed up werewolf variant that was like like a cursed version of lycanthropy, so even
big
more
werewolf.
meta. Yeah, no, literally it was the like loup-garou or like whatever the like French term for werewolf is. There was also a bunch of, they even started like a Jason like from Friday the 13th type of character.
Really?
Yeah, a relentless killer. Specifically because
that sounds awesome.
Yeah, no, so that's the thing. That's the cool thing about it is the main thing that Van Richten's Guide gave us was tools to run our own horror-based adventures. We're like, yeah, you can these are some of the ones you can make one on your own, and you can make something that's basically like an 80s slasher, themed like Dread Realm, where you're stuck in this place. The curse system also was really cool. Shia
my
LaBeouf.
God, Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, no, you can do that, because there's like this relentless killer that is like a really high CR thing that can teleport around and also
your leg is stuck in a bear trap.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Kobe said it right as I. Yes.
Yeah, no, exactly, and you can do that shit, and you can also they also did a really cool thing in my opinion, which is they added a concept of survivors. So in concert with you running as a DM, your players in this Dread Realm, being like high level and being PCs, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you introduce a level of fear and horror and tension to players without outright just killing them every session? That's where the survivor thing comes in, where you can
take them out to the back and slap them around.
Well, yeah, because
every time they take damage.
Exactly, and with survivors, there was a cool element that they added, which is that you essentially play as this like super simple kind of sidekick type of character.
Okay.
So the whole party is a sidekick thing, and they're very simple. Like there's the fighter, there's the cleric, there's the wizard, there's the rogue, and they're fairly like easily statted out, where there's just like simple actions that you have to do, and super easy to pick up.
Maybe that's like really good to introduce people to
Exactly.
D&D. Maybe I should run that for the new players that might be playing.
Yeah, no, definitely. And level of 0.5 literally. and then you also have options for leveling up the like
Actually,
Yeah.
normal people.
like you have options to level them up also to an extent if they survive. But it's a really cool like narrative thing because you can perhaps do yeah.
That's
Yeah,
so. That
exactly.
would be the saddest fate.
Well, no, that's the thing is that most times they're supposed to die by the end of it. Like you can play a one shot during the point where, like, not really spoilers, but like Strahd becomes a vampire. Like during the like the kind of initial kind of storming of the city, like when Strahd went sicko mode. You can play as that like in a one shot where you're these like PCs that are stuck here and are like actually trapped and
You can
can't
play as the
die.
people in the pie.
Yeah, no, you literally can't play. Like that's the thing. You can play as like a group of people that got trapped by hags are gonna if they don't escape, they're gonna be turned into pies,
Pie time.
and you can't do anything about it. And that's the thing. And you can also do and that's a cool way of
I'm
playing.
gonna fucking do that.
It's a way of playing the
That's
game,
awesome.
really. No, it's a really cool way of playing it. It's kind of like playing Dread, really. That is true, but. That's and that's definitely a way of playing a campaign, right? Playing one shots, introducing and integrating, one shots and one off and side adventures, as a way of further enriching your world.
Yeah.
As a really cool mechanism, and you as a DM can be fun, to stretch your legs and do something that's not the same vibe as always, and you can be more brutal, be more spook, explore your more creative kind of spooky like tools, and try to work on your horror like scary movie narrator voice. you know
But the best side adventures are ones that don't really feel like side adventures.
exactly,
you
that's
know?
the thing. Well, to the players, it's just an adventure.
Yeah.
And that's a good point actually, Matt. Yeah, like side adventures, the best ones don't feel like a side adventure. The reason you call it a side adventure is to delineate it between the main story that people are like got signed up for. Yeah. No, there's also we can talk a lot about Van Rixen's Guide, honestly, because it does explore a thing where the whole
Do they
point
have
of
like
it.
cosmic horror and
Yes.
stuff like that?
No, there's like chapters of it, and there's tables to roll off of for each of those elements. And
Didn't they
hooks.
add the Star Spawn in one of the
Yes.
recent ones? Is that
Starspawn
the-
emissaries? They're really scary. And I think I was talking to Dexter. Shout out to Dexter.
I can't believe he's dead.
He's not dead now. But we were going over the stat blocks, and honestly, it's one of the better, like higher CR. Yeah, literally like super big, like actually like one of those things. They refer to it as a finger from the aberrant realms, tipping into the material plane, and how just scary it is.
Fingy.
But yeah, no, and it's one of those things where I kind of enjoy that, and it is very much an option now for DMs in 5e to do that. Is with this Van Rixen's Guide, I highly encourage people who are interested in it, try out running a one shot that's horror themed or horror
Try it
based.
out.
Try it out, and and maybe you can run a full campaign on it. If I wanted to start another campaign, I'll start one in a Dread Drop, for sure.
It's hard to run a full horror campaign because people like get kind of mentally worn out. They're like, I don't want to do horror
Well,
the
see,
whole time.
That no, definitely. That's why it can work really well as a side campaign.
Yeah.
I remember there's a cool thing
Like an adventure.
that kind of tapped into another point of we were talking about like role playing and speeding that up or modifying it to an extent, where it encouraged players to pick up an amount of fears. And then when players act on their fears and act disadvantageous and to their character, you can perhaps give them inspiration points once per session, perhaps.
Yeah, but then it's I agree, and that's something that Avernus did.
yeah,
Avernus, like,
Give
if
them
you did
inspiration points for
bad,
being
evil
bad.
shit,
yeah,
you would get inspiration, or you would get different
Yeah.
boons and stuff.
yeah. There's a really good section just devoted to getting like fear and horror and helping with your helping get into that stuff. Definitely, yeah, no, like it can be really cool.
That is cool. I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah, no, I'd highly recommend it. I read through it a bunch. My favorite one is the steampunk Frankenstein one for obvious reasons. It's like it's really
Steampunk
cool.
Frankenstein.
It's really cool. But all those ones, I highly recommend people to check them out, especially like as a DM or as a player who's interested into getting into DMing. Picking up Picking up Candlekeep Mysteries is a really nice way of just going into and kind of playing a small adventure that's inconsequential to an amount, and it's just a small kind of one shots and stuff, is a really good like gateway into like DMing and stuff, and can be fun because you don't really like they give you
Frank
most of the
and
tools.
Clunk.
Yeah, no, they give you like lots of the tools, and I highly recommend to people to check it out. Yeah. We're actually perfectly on time. As I literally checked my clock and it's exactly 5 p.m. But yeah, no, definitely. So
Crisp.
as always, we'll wrap it up here. And if it is the case that we go on a hiatus, see y'all in about 2 months approximately. I'll be back during July, end of July, and we'll be resuming that. Or who knows, we might record sessions instead and just do them digitally. It could be a change in medium, and that way we'll
Premiere
just,
sessions instead.
yeah, and
Premiere on YouTube.
yeah, no, we can definitely do that. That option does pop up for me. YouTube is pretty crazy about how easy it is to do that stuff. But yeah, no, definitely check out our YouTube. I'm pretty sure everyone is on the Discord server, given that's how y'all know about the podcast. But yeah, Discord server, and if y'all have any questions, suggestions, any criticism on how we both suck at doing a podcast, feel free to either DM me, most likely me, not Matt.
Yeah, don't DM me.
Don't DM Matt. DM me about any questions you want explored in the future. And yeah, as always, I guess, yeah, take it easy, everyone. Enjoy the summer. Yeah.
Have a